Hello artists and welcome back to the channel. My name is Thomas and today we're going to be going through how to take criticism as an artist. First of all, identifying what is good criticism, what is bad criticism, who to avoid and who to listen to, and then actually how to process that criticism, whether it be from university, a comment online, or some other random person in your life. So I guess first of all is, how do you actually identify legitimate, constructive criticism? I think when regarding the arts, this can be kind of a bit of a debate sometimes, because obviously when it comes to art and the viewer, it really comes down to subjective opinions. But we are not going to talk about subjective opinions today, because I really think that there is genuine criticism when it comes to, for example, the presentation of an idea, understanding the intention of an artist and how they are using their materials, for example, drawing and other types of styles and imagery. All of this can be criticized. Obviously, first of all, understanding the intention of the artist is an important thing, but all of these factors can be legitimately kind of challenged or commented on. So that's kind of the first thing to think about. If someone is coming at you from a certain angle, a certain perspective, first of all, I think the thing we should do is completely try to remove your ego when it comes to your own work being criticized, and just listen carefully to the person who's criticizing you. Once you've listened to them, then obviously you can identify, first of all, understand what position they are in when it comes to you. So for example, if they are a fellow student, or if they are someone who knows nothing about painting, for example. I'm a painter, so I'll talk in the context of painting. So let's just say that there is someone who knows nothing about painting trying to criticize what brush you're using. Clearly, their opinion or criticism doesn't really have much weight, and you should just kind of ignore people like that. You also need to be aware of people who love to, in that kind of group crit atmosphere, whether they have a couple of friends there that they want to show off to, or there's those kinds of people who love to use fancy big words or throw generic terms and concepts out there without really knowing what they're speaking about. And then you need to spot these kinds of people, because you then need to challenge them on the terms that they're using. And it's like literally say to them, I don't understand what you're saying. Can you please explain it to me? And a lot of these people, when you actually challenge them on what they're actually trying to say, they don't even understand what they're saying themselves. And they tend to throw a couple insults or stay silent and say or go do your research, They use all these terms, and when you question about the terms that they're using, they tell you to go and do your research, when clearly if they did know what they were speaking about, they would just explain it to you. So also watch out for those kinds of people. Now we've kind of pushed aside the annoying people. Let's talk about, sometimes comments can come in that actually have useful kind of stuff within them, but the way that they're presented or said can just be in quite a negative way. So this is when your listening skills kind of come in, where you just kind of have to put that ego aside and just listen. So for example, someone could say, I think that your painting is very, very ugly. That hurts your feelings, because the colors are so muddy, you have lack of control when it comes to brushwork, and I can see that you're doing figurative painting and you can't even draw. Now, the way that they've obviously said that comment is quite hurtful. They could have maybe put it in a softer manner, but you can really break down here that there's actually some constructive feedback there. So number one is muddy colors. Okay, you can ask, okay, how do I possibly mix my paints or do my colors cleaner? Is it my palette? Is it the way I'm mixing my paints? Am I just mixing with dirty brushes so that the colors aren't clean coming out? Number two, do I have the appropriate tools? Are my brushes appropriate for the effects that I'm trying to create? Because they're criticizing the effect of the brush. And then third of all, okay, maybe I need to improve my observation skills, because someone has spotted that, okay, they pointed out proportions or something where you're trying to do a realistic figure, yet they're like, well, you can't draw. So there's actually 3 positive things you can take out of that. But yeah, just the way that they said it. Some people have no emotional intelligence when it comes to the things they say, but sometimes just push that aside and take the good out of what these kinds of characters say. Usually the kind of feedback you're looking for in a crit is actually something practical. basically something you can challenge or change. And when someone says something about your work, you can see basically a difference that you can make. Whether you agree with that or not is obviously down to your own intentions as an artist and your own understanding of what you're doing. But if there's kind of in the good and the bad, basically, you can have feedback which is just generic nonsense. So for example, please do not be one of those people. I think one of the downsides of art crits now in university, and even in lectures I saw this, was you have this crit and then someone goes, I really like your work, it's so cool. You're like, okay, that's positive, we're off to a good start. And no, we're not off to a good start. This is the most nonsense comment you could possibly do in like I don't know, you're supposed to be in an academic institution having, I don't know, educated discussion. And as much as I appreciate kind of good intentions of people who might go, oh yeah, I really like your work, it's so cool. It's like, why? If there's something about the work, you need to have that kind of critical kind of thinking where you can identify what you think is cool, point it out to that person and say, do more of that because I think that's really working. Then whoever's being criticized can then be like, oh, okay, great, that thing is working. Maybe I should work on it more. Maybe I can evolve that more. Okay, that's something to think about. And on the flip side, just ignore anyone who goes, I don't like your work, you're so bad. And then you say, why is it bad? Oh, you're just crap. How's that supposed to help anyone? I feel like this is more internet trolls. You get less of this in the flesh now. So now, what you've all been waiting for, the title of the video. Once you've kind of processed, or how do you process this criticism that comes to you, whether it be good or bad criticism? The number one thing to focus on here is, of course, your attitude when it comes to taking criticism and your own confidence as an artist and what you do as an artist. If you value other people's opinions too much, I mean, your whole life is just going to be controlled basically by the people who you surround yourself with. You're never going to have any kind of independent choice if you value others' opinions too much. Whereas on the other hand, if you're too arrogant and so impressed with yourself and you think you're some kind of one-off genius, which maybe one of you are, but who knows, you will never learn anything off anyone. So I think the sweet spot is somewhere in the middle, where you're humble enough to actually listen to people, but confident enough to know where to draw the line, how to understand what is that genuine criticism that comes towards you or your work. And then you can kind of filter that and filter out all the negative baggage or the lack of emotional intelligence, as I was speaking about earlier, but keep all the good constructive stuff. Now, I know some of you might say, hey, Thomas, so you say basically take all the positive and filter out all the negative. Yeah, it's easier said than done, isn't it? Because I know sometimes in the moment where you're being criticized, or you feel a bit we all have a bit of insecurities here and there. We cannot be perfect human beings. And in that moment of that crit, you can fall apart a little bit. But I can understand in the kind of setting and the moment, it can be a bit daunting. But then what's the most important thing is how you process it afterwards. Because you need to remember that any negativity or positivity coming towards you, you're the one who chooses how to process that. It's all about perspective. So I can understand that these things can be really difficult and we all have kind of issues as individuals, but you have to think of this kind of processing as a muscle that you really need to work on. What I do is really lay things out in a very simple, blunt manner for myself. So I always kind of ask myself, okay, if I'm going to allow other people's negativity to affect me, or if I'm going to process something as extremely negative regarding myself and my practice to such an extent where it stops me working as well as I could be otherwise, then I'm actually ruining my own future because of someone else's comment or just words about what I do as an individual. The reality is the less time you spend, working, being optimistic, refining your practice, doing all of this, the less success you're going to find. Success isn't found by, being comfortable and being always told you're doing great. Success is about failure again and again and again and again and again and again. But don't register failure as something negative that means you don't do that thing that you love anymore. If you really love that thing and you want to succeed at it, then failure is actually going to be a learning. It's going to be like a stepping stone for you. Imagine the failure as steps, and then you just walk up the steps, and then success is at the top. Some of our staircases are longer than others. Some of them are like spirals. Some of them are a bit up and down and whatever, but I hope you get my meaning. If anything, feel sorry for the people who, go around throwing their crap at everyone else, because at the end of the day, they're the ones with the insecurities, the miserable lives, and they're the ones with the glasses with terrible perspective. Basically, feel sorry for them. Also, remember, as I mentioned earlier, positivity is a muscle you really need to train. There's all negative narratives that our mind comes up with sometimes. There's that voice in your head that gives you doubts, insecurities, makes you feel like crap on some day. It happens to all of us. But what you have to do as an individual is, when that voice comes, you have positive counter arguments in place that you've thought about, that counter any of that negativity that either comes from yourself or other people. So one of the common things that this voice in my head sometimes tells me is, you're not doing well, you can't paint, what's the point of this? This is so bloody pointless, you're not going to succeed anyways, where are you going to be in 5-10 years? What's the point of doing it anyways? Basically, you're rubbish. Yeah, it happens to all of us. Even someone as stubbornly positive as I am, it happens to all of us. But what I tell myself is like, look, over the years, you've seen how much you've developed. You know that if you put the work in, you're going to see improvement. It's those small changes every single day that you need to make, and just build, because that's what's going to, find you. Basically, that's how you're going to find success. When it comes down to it, it's all about kind of hard work, the systems that you build around you, how efficient can you be with your time, and then it's just a matter of patience. The fear of not succeeding is what drives me to succeed. I don't know if that is that my first amazing quote on this channel. I can't see myself doing anything other than art, creativity, painting for the rest of my life. So I'm either going to succeed at it or I'm going to die trying. Just remember that this isn't just a fight against the negativity out there or within your environment, but it's also a fight against yourself. We always need to refine ourselves as human beings, build ourselves up, have a solid foundation there. So no matter what positivity or negativity comes at us, we are well grounded as an individual, and we know how to kind of filter through these different types of, feedback we get throughout our lives. I hope that this video has been beneficial to anyone basically looking to improve how they might receive criticism. Please, in the comments below, give us some positive and horror stories when it comes to crits. If you've had any good or bad experiences, I'm sure there are lots of people who would love to relate to your story below. And as always, you can message me on Instagram if you have any questions. And here is my awkward goodbye.